However, last night, I got contacted by somebody in a position of knowledge of the situation who let me know that the Star Wars dates 2022, 2024, and 2026 are in fact actually all Benioff and Weiss movies. That they do not have anything on the schedule for Rian Johnson's Star Wars films, and according to this particular source, Rian Johnson's thing was basically done.
Well. What do we think about that? John Campea, who is one of the biggest shills on YouTube for Disney, Star Wars, and for Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm Limited, and for Rian Johnson. John Campea is putting out a video, has put out a video in the last hour or so, telling us that, as far as he knows, Rian Johnson's trilogy of Star Wars films is done, in John Campea's own words. Now, I'll leave a link to John Campea's video in the description here at YouTube, because he does add in a few caveats. He's asked a few other people what they have heard about Rian Johnson's trilogy, and they've told him that they think that the trilogy's done as well. But he is putting in the caveat that he has asked Disney, his contact at Disney, whether it's true that Rian Johnson's trilogy has basically been cancelled. And he's not heard back from that source at Disney, so he is leaving himself back to get out. But basically, he is saying that, as far as he knows, Rian Johnson's trilogy is done, it's over, it's finished, it's not happening. The 3 films for 2022, 2024, 2026 are the Benioff and Weiss trilogy. We think that's going to be Knights of the Old Republic, but there's been no confirmation about that. He does say that he thinks Rian Johnson may be consulting with Benioff and Weiss about their trilogy of films. I'm not sure quite what that will be related to, but he's very, very specific about the fact that he thinks Rian Johnson's trilogy is done and it's not happening. It's been cancelled. Basically, certainly very much kicked into the really long grass. Now, what I'd say about this is that, of course, it could be Disney sort of drip feeding information, see what the fans make of it. So there's going to be people who liked The Last Jedi who will be disappointed if this is true. And I suppose they might be seeing how much support there would be for Rian Johnson and his trilogy if the idea was taken off the table, whether there would be a fan backlash about that. But I've always been really dubious about Rian Johnson ever doing a trilogy. So I've said that in the videos on this channel that we've been doing over the past few weeks, that I just think at this point Rian is so... I wouldn't necessarily go as far as say he's toxic with the fans, but I think he has annoyed so many people, not particularly as much with The Last Jedi, although that was a very bad film, but the response to the fans after The Last Jedi. So Rian is a very abrasive sort of character, and he's been going at it online, particularly on Twitter, with a lot of the fan community. Now, he would say they are toxic fans, and so he's just sort of going against people who are trolls, outright sort of toxic, sexist, misogynist, and that kind of thing. And I suppose there are probably a few people who are like that online, but I think he's sort of tried to tar many Star Wars fans with that brush. I mean, I don't like The Last Jedi at all, and I don't consider myself to be outright or particularly sexist or racist or misogynist or any of those things. I just didn't enjoy the film that Rian created, and as a consumer who paid money to go and see Rian Johnson's film, as a lifelong Star Wars fan, I'm perfectly entitled, I think, to that opinion. I've not been abusive to anybody about that, and if anybody is suffering abuse, abuse about this, about the film, then obviously, whether that's Rian Johnson or Kelly Marie Tran or anybody else associated with the film, then obviously that's wrong. They should not be suffering any abuse for the film that they have created. But it is the fans or the consumers, I suppose, right to be able to say that they think that the film that Rian Johnson created was a bad film. And how you go about that, of course, how you express yourself, that's another thing. And I say nobody should be abused. Obviously, there should be no abuse directed at Rian Johnson or anybody else. But at the end of the day, he created a bad film, and he wanted to divide the fans. That's the thing as well. He created a film that was basically, he's on record as saying he wanted to do something divisive, he wanted to do something shocking, and he got a response for that. So he must have expected it when he made the film in the way that he made it. He must have expected that he would get a response, he would get a backlash. That's what he was aiming for, and he got it. So, you reap what you sow a lot of the time in life. But that said, nobody should be abused, obviously. And if Rian Johnson or anybody else is suffering from personal abuse, that is wrong. Hopefully, whoever is giving this abuse to Rian Johnson and anybody else associated with The Last Jedi, hopefully they're going to be reported to the authorities, or have been reported to the authorities, and justice has caught up with them, and hopefully they have been prosecuted for the abuse that they have directed at Rian Johnson, Kelly Marie Tran, and anybody else. So let's put that on the table straight away. Nobody should be abused. But he created a film that is very divisive. He's admitted he set out to create a film that was very divisive, and he got a backlash for it. So with all this having been going on, I did a video last night about Mike Zero. It was having a laugh, having a bit of fun about our bringing us future Star Wars content. But there was an important point in there, but I did touch upon that Rian Johnson has even gone as far as attacking our wondrous Mike Zero online. Ryan suffered a big backlash about that. He had to delete the tweets, and I think in the end he had to issue an apology, actually, to Mike Zero. Mike just kept a very dignified silence about it, but it just proves the sort of very abrasive, kind of obnoxious figure that Rian Johnson is online a lot of the time. And if he even goes after somebody like Mike Zero, then at this point, I think Disney knows that his trilogy is just going to be too divisive. They want to bring the fans back together, I think. They're going out of their way with The Rise of Skywalker to suggest that a lot of the things that happened in The Last Jedi, particularly the way Luke Skywalker was a character assassinated and then killed off, they're going out of their way through the marketing to suggest that Skywalker's going to rise, and it's going to be a resurrection. Whether there will or not in the end of the film is another matter. But certainly through the marketing, they are dangling that carrot, if you like, that we've listened to what you said about The Last Jedi, and we're going to do something about that. So they're trying to bring the fans back together for The Last Jedi. The last thing they'll want after that is to have Rian Johnson rocking up with a trilogy of films that the fans are just going to say, no, we don't want this. So they're going to focus, I thought they would, they're going to focus on the Benioff and Weiss trilogy, although I hear that the final, season 8 of Game of Thrones that Benioff and Weiss have created has gone a bit off the rails. So, Game of Thrones up to this point is really, really successful, but apparently, I don't watch Games of Thrones, I have never watched that series, but apparently Game of Thrones has gone off the rails for its last series, for season 8. So, bit of doubt about that, but they're going to try and concentrate on the Benioff and Weiss trilogy. How Rian Johnson fits into that, I'm not sure. I did wonder whether they might have, I've done a video about this, whether they might have Benioff and Weiss kind of like supervising Rian Johnson, if you like, overseeing him. So he would still do at least one more film, probably the first one of the trilogy, once coming out in 2022, he'd still do that, but it wouldn't be the trilogy he was expecting to do, and he would have Benioff and Weiss kind of like supervising him to make sure he can't do too much more damage. That's the role Kathleen Kennedy, who is the leader at Lucasfilm Limited, that's the role she should have had over The Last Jedi, but she's neglected her role. But I think they might have been bringing Benioff and Weiss to oversee a Rian Johnson film. It wouldn't be the trilogy he was expected to do. It wouldn't be telling the story that he thought he'd be telling. So I wonder whether he might sort of, at that point, say, I'm out of this, and kind of like his position would be untenable. I wonder whether that's what's happened here. That they've stopped him from doing his trilogy. That's off the table. They might have suggested that he could direct another film, the first of what we know as the Benioff and Weiss trilogy, but Benioff and Weiss would be supervising him in doing that, so he wouldn't be creating it alone. He would just be kind of like a hired director, if you like, within a bigger project. And at that point, I wonder whether Rian Johnson has stepped away and has, you know, said, I can't do this, it's not what I was expecting, and my position is untenable, I can't work with Benioff and Weiss sort of supervising me and telling me what I'm doing, so I'm going to step away. I wonder whether that's what's happened. I'm possibly wrong on that, but I've been wondering about that ever since Kathleen Kennedy made that announcement back in around Star Wars Celebration that she was going to get Rian Johnson and Benioff and Weiss together, and they was going to thrash out where the next decade of Star Wars was going. I just wondered at that point whether that's what was happening here. And now we're beginning to hear these rumours that Rian Johnson's trilogy is done. In John Campea's own words, it's done, it's finished, it's not happening. And I just wonder whether Ryan's walked away from it now. We shall see. It'll all come out in the wash, I'm quite sure. If this is right, I would suspect that speculation will become rife over the next day or so, and we will get some sort of confirmation either from Rian Johnson or from Disney about what's happening. It's just a breaking, developing story right now that John Campea has broken on his channel. And John Campea, as I say, is one of the biggest shills for Lucasfilm and for Disney that's out there. So it's not like he's got an axe to grind. It's not like he's after Rian Johnson's blood. He's one of the biggest shills going. So if he's saying that Rian Johnson is done with his trilogy, then I have to say, if anybody's waiting for Rian Johnson's trilogy, it's looking pretty grim. But it's only rumours at the moment, no direct confirmation. So until we get that direct confirmation, either from Rian Johnson or from Disney, to say what's happening, then we need to stay cautious. And John Campea does put those caveats into his video anyway. But I think if he's going mispublic about it, he must be pretty sure. And he does say that he thinks his sources are correct about this. So it looks like Rian Johnson, as far as his association with Star Wars, is finished, and that's it. So we should wait and see what happens. It's a developing story. No doubt we'll be doing more videos about this in the coming days. That's all for now, though. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, by the way, please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.